Welcome to the Southeast Region's Virtual Project Leader Workshop. I am so excited that you're joining me today and that I get to share with you more about what God is doing through Operation Christmas Child. My name is Wendy Kaufman and I'm the Administrative Coordinator for the Southeast Region. But before working for OCC, I was involved as a project leader for 2 different churches and as a church relations team member. Being a project leader is exciting because you are at the grassroots level of generating shoeboxes to impact children all over the world with the gospel. Today, I have 3 goals for this workshop. 1 is to better educate you about the ministry. 2 is to equip you to share with your churches and groups. And 3 is to enable you to become familiar with the new project leader resources that are available on our website. First of all, let's define what project leader is. Project leader is someone who organizes a shoebox collection for a church or a group. And I was doing this for years before I even knew that there was a term for what I was. But project leaders are an essential part of this ministry because you are the face of the ministry in your local community. And so we want to make sure that we're pouring into you so that you can pour into the people that you are leading to get involved with Operation Christmas Child. Now, Operation Christmas Child is so much more than just about shoeboxes. So let's take just a moment for a closer look at what we're really about. You'll see evangelism, discipleship, and multiplication on your screen. I really kind of think of it this way, that OCC equals EDM, that we're all about evangelism, discipleship, and multiplication. As many of you know, Operation Christmas Child is a project of Samaritan's Purse, which is an international Christian relief and evangelism organization headed by Franklin Graham. But what a lot of people don't know is what is really happening with the shoeboxes after the children receive them, the doors that it is opening. And so that's what we want to go deeper with today. The Lord is using simple shoebox gifts to equip local churches for evangelism and discipleship around the world. And the spiritual impact is multiplying in the communities by all sorts of things, with kids sharing their faith with others, with churches being built, with disciples being made. Now, the whole process really starts with prayer and training. All the church leaders around the world have to complete training in order to receive and distribute the shoebox gifts and to receive the materials for discipleship. So once individuals in these other countries have been trained, we consider them as ministry partners. And the training that they're receiving is being conducted by our national leadership teams. Our national leadership teams are like our year-round volunteers here in the United States. We mirror that system overseas in these different countries. We call them NLTs for short. The national leadership team is year-round volunteers who are from various evangelical denominations, and they're strategizing how to reach all the children in their country with the gospel of Jesus Christ. And we believe and know that local Christians who know the culture and language are the best at reaching their own people. We are just here to give them effective resources so that they have those tools for ministry. And then the ministry partners are actually those that are hosting and organizing the Shoebox Outreach event and are sharing the gospel with children in a way that the children can understand. They are also the ones that lead the Greatest Journey discipleship program and that host graduation events. So let's talk a little bit more about the Shoebox Outreach events. There you will see on the screen over 60,000 outreach events happening in a year. It is just amazing. The lady in the picture is holding up the ministry partner guide, and you'll see a lot of full color pictures on there where she is presenting the gospel verbally while showing the children pictures that represent what she is sharing about. And after they hear the gospel at the outreach event, then the children receive their shoebox gift and have a tangible expression of the love of God that they just heard about. And for many of these children, it's the first gift they've ever received. This 60,000 number was from last year's events that happened around the globe in over 100 countries, which is just amazing. Now let's look at the Greatest Gift booklet a little closer. The Greatest Gift is what most people are familiar with going with the shoebox. This is the gospel presentation in printed form. It's available in 77 languages, shares 11 scripture stories about Jesus, and the children are receiving this booklet in their native language when they receive their shoebox. This is a huge thing for these kids and for their families because many of them have never ever received a book in their language before. So this gospel booklet gets passed around to a whole lot more people than just the child who receives it, because everyone is so excited about receiving a book in their language, which just further makes the reach of the gospel go into the families and communities beyond just the children. And then after the shoebox outreach event, children are invited to a program called The Greatest Journey. We often refer to this as TGJ. And The Greatest Journey is a 12-lesson discipleship program that teaches children how to know Christ, how to grow in faith, and how to share their faith with others. This is essential to disciple these children who have just heard the gospel and many who have received Christ at these outreach events. We want to take them further and deeper in their new walk with the Lord. And you'll see these statistics here. Over 372,000 teachers trained, over 7,487,000 children enrolled, over 5,264,000 children have graduated, and over 3,400,000 reported salvations because of how God has chosen to use The Greatest Journey. So we want to have more children get shoeboxes so that we can invite more children to participate in The Greatest Journey as we continue to want to grow this discipleship program. Now, this is a great picture on this slide here. This is a man in Fiji who is teaching a Greatest Journey class there on the hillside under a tree. He travels all over Fiji to get the gospel to the children. And you'll see in the inset picture there, the Greatest Journey materials there's a leader guide so that we're training the leaders who are teaching the children, in addition to the Greatest Journey book that the children are receiving. So this helps students learn more about Jesus, memorize verses, talks about evangelism and who are they going to share their faith with so that the gospel reach can continue to grow. When children complete the 12-lesson discipleship program, they have a graduation. And the graduation is such a big deal because so many of these kids have never been able to graduate from anything yet. They don't have little kid kindergarten and grade school graduations like we do here in the States. And they may never graduate from, what we would have an equivalent of high school. And so this may be the only graduation they ever have for anything. And they receive a certificate and, most importantly, a New Testament Bible in their language that also contains select Old Testament stories so that they can have their own copy of the Word of God. And we use the Greatest Journey graduation as another gospel outreach because their parents, their friends, and family are going to be attending. So then the gospel is being proclaimed yet again so that even more people are hearing about the saving news of Jesus Christ. So as you see, it's really all about multiplication. It all starts with that shoebox gift, but then they're sharing with friends and family, the children are, and then God is growing. He is growing his church in countries all over the world because of how he is using a simple shoebox to start this chain reaction. Now, yes, Operation Christmas Child is really all about equipping the churches with the tools for evangelism, discipleship, and multiplication. When Christ gave the Great Commission in Matthew, it was not an optional statement. It is an expectation that he has for his followers, that we are to go and make disciples. And so one of the ways that we can do this is by partnering with the Lord in Operation Christmas Child. But what's important as a project leader, the more that we share that vision with our churches and with our groups, the more invested that they get as they understand the breadth of this project, that it's not just giving a nice gift to a child. The gift is just the vehicle to give the child the gospel. Because the toys and the soap and the pencils, they're all going to wear out, break, get used up. Everything in that gift is going to pass away at some point, but the eternal life that a child can have with Jesus is never going to end. And so to really help our churches and groups to see that that is the point. And this year, to give you an example, I'm going to be leading the project at my church, and they have some familiarity with Operation Christmas Child, but they haven't had any real large invested effort in packing shoeboxes in years. And as I have talked with the pastor and as he has shared with the elders, they have gotten excited when I have shared with them about the evangelism, discipleship, church ministry, planting focus to this ministry. And so when I have the opportunity to speak with the church body here this weekend, I am planning on going up with a shoebox and with a Bible inside of the shoebox. And I'm going to ask them how many people have packed a shoebox before. And I'm sure I'm going to see a number of hands. Then I'm going to ask them how many of you know about the Greatest Journey Discipleship Program. And I expect far fewer hands in the audience at that point. And I'm going to take the Bible out of the shoebox and I'm going to set the shoebox on the floor. And I'm going to tell them I'm not up there to talk to them about shoeboxes. I'm up there to talk to them about the gospel, because the shoebox is simply the vehicle. And I want to help my church get focused less on what goes into the box and more on what comes out of the box and how God is using this. And I'm also planning to share a video with them that was on the promo kit DVD from last year. It was one of the bonus features about a young lady in India who shared her Greatest Journey discipleship book with her school class. And my church already has a connection to India. So out of all the videos that I could pick to show them, I want to pick something that's going to talk to them where they already are. And that's something important for us to do as project leaders, is to try to talk about the ministry where the church is already at and connect those dots to let them see how this is just another opportunity to do evangelism, to do discipleship, to reach people in a certain country or whatever the connection your church or your group may have. So another thing to consider is lots of churches and groups prepare shoebox gifts in packing parties, as well as individual families and smaller groups getting together and doing boxes. And so this year, I'm not trying to have our church have a church-wide packing party, but I am going to be promoting that our small groups, our men's prayer groups, the Awana groups for the kids, that in those smaller venues, they look at doing packing parties. And I have done some large-scale packing parties at my former churches. And one of the things, packing parties can be great. They can be awesome. But one of the things to consider is that sometimes we get so focused on quantity at a packing party that we don't focus enough on quality. And I remember at the end of some of our packing parties, we wouldn't have enough left of this or of that. And people would just start shoving stuff in shoeboxes sometimes. And we wouldn't really have enough to have a quality gift. But we wanted to not use these materials that were donated, and we wanted another kid to get a box. Well, what I would encourage now with doing a packing party is when it gets to that point, box up the stuff that's left that you don't have enough to make boxes with that are quality, and either have people in the church take ownership of finishing off some boxes and getting what's lacking, or donate those materials when your churches take your shoe boxes to your drop-off locations. Just donate those materials to be filler items for our shoeboxes at the processing center, because if we have boxes that come through that don't have enough materials in it to be a good solid gift, or we have to take out an inappropriate item that we can't send, such as liquids, then we want to have items there that are appropriate to put in so that every child receives an excellent gift. And one of our founders said many years ago that the quality of our work is the platform of our witness. We are giving these shoeboxes as a representation of Jesus Christ, and we want to give nothing less than our best. And that doesn't mean you have to spend $100 to pack a box, but it does mean that you give a quality gift to the child, knowing that you're using that as a tool to witness to them about the gospel of Christ. And then there's the $7 shipping per shoebox that we ask for. And one of the things project leaders, I know I ran into this, that can be a challenge sometimes, is raising those funds to make sure that the shipping is covered for all the boxes, especially when your church or your group does a mass packing party. So there are some great tools available for this, but I think the first tool really is educating people on the importance of the shipping. To see that as not the tag on, okay, well, I've done the box and now the last thing I have to do is have the $7, but rather to flip that and see it as the first thing. The $7 is hugely important and is really the first gift of the shoebox, because if we can't afford to get the box to the child, then what's in the box doesn't matter at that point if the child can't receive it. And it really, $7 is what we need to cover the cost of shipping the boxes, but that $7 is also covering cost for the Greatest Gift Gospel booklet. It's helping with that the children receive. It's helping with the ministry partner guides that the leaders in the other countries are using to share the gospel at the outreach events. And I know after I heard back from a child who received one of my boxes years ago in Uganda, heard back from his mom actually, I wanted to send him a little envelope of just some flat things like stickers and, just little stuff. And I took it to the post office, and the shipping was outrageous for something that light and that small. And that proved the point to me that $7 to ship a shoebox is nothing compared to what it would cost if I went to the post office trying to do this on my own. So really emphasize the importance, because on average, we're only receiving $4 something on average per shoebox that we receive, and the rest of the money, God has been gracious to this point to make up in other ways, but we really need to get the word out to people of the importance of including the full shipping cost for the box. All right, so something to consider is just, do you think that your church or group understands what happens beyond the shoebox? And we've talked about this some already, but I really want you to evaluate the group that you're working with, because you know them. You're serving alongside them to know what part do I think they get, what part do I think they don't get, and then to see how you need to tailor what you're focusing on. Maybe it's really pushing home about the gospel booklet and the presentation at the outreach event, because maybe your church doesn't realize that there's more to this than just giving a gift, or your group doesn't realize, or maybe they've got that, but people don't really know about the greatest journey yet. Or maybe they know about the greatest journey, but they don't realize that the children are going to get a Bible after that. These things, to just make sure that they're understanding what God's really using them for and how big and how important the part is that they are playing in this kingdom effort. So looking now at Project Leader resources, this is a shot of the landing page on our website that when you first get on there, will begin to guide you through the Project Leader resources. And I know back when I started being a project leader, it was 2004, and there was nowhere near the amount of resources available back then as there are now. And I would have been turning cartwheels to have had some of these resources available to help me in reaching my church. But we have so many resources available now. I just want to caution you from the opposite effect occurring, of where you're looking at all of this and you start to feel overwhelmed, like, well, I can't do this, or my group's not big enough to be able to do all of these types of ideas with. Don't worry about that. Don't let that be a distraction. We're not putting these resources out there with any expectation that everybody is going to do all of them. These are tools that we want to give you to equip you, and you know your group, you know your church, you know what tools are going to be effective there and what's not. And so it's like going to a buffet. You pick what you want because you know what's going to be effective. And then if you try something and it didn't work, try something different next year. But don't feel the pressure or the stress that you have to do all of this to be a good project leader, because it's not true. The biggest thing you have to do to be a good project leader is pray. Bathe it in prayer. Get people in your church or your group to be praying over your group's involvement. And then to have the passion and the gospel focus. That is the biggest thing that's going to make you an effective project leader, to get the word out about what the Lord is really doing with these boxes. Share the vision with the people that He has put in your circle of influence. And to just go ahead and look these things through and see. We've broken it down into 3 steps, which you want to look at, and then there's multiple things under these steps. But the 3 main steps are forming a plan, getting the word out, and collecting and celebrating. And forming a plan, it's important to think through, obviously, praying is the first thing, and getting that prayer support, but then setting some kind of a goal to have your church or group shooting for, of how many kids they believe God can use them to reach for this year, and making that goal known and motivating people with that. Talking about that, how are we going to get the $7 donation for all of the shoe boxes? That's important. And remember, even though you're project leading, you're not in it alone. I know I had an amazing team of people at my church to help, because there's no way that I could have pulled off a packing party, large or small, on my own. And so it's important to involve others in it. And then that second thing of getting the word out, just think about ways that you can communicate to get the word out to just as many people as possible. There's all sorts of stuff with social media being ways that you can get it out, with showing videos, showing pictures, having links to the latest stories, or linking to our Facebook page, things like this, to get the word out about the ministry and about what it's really doing, and promote what you're doing at your church, inviting people to your packing party. I know my church, we invited the community to come, and we had some people show up, and it's just like we always say, there's just as much ministry going on this side of the box as there is on the other side of the box. We have unbelievers participating in this ministry with us, and you never know who could walk into your church's packing party or your group's packing party, and the opportunity that you could have to share the love of Christ with them. So get the word out. And then once everything is completed, go and do the collection, but then celebrate. Celebrate what God has done. You and your team have just worked really hard, put in a lot of effort, a lot of prayer into what has happened. And we want to give God the glory. And it can be, a small thing, a big thing, but the importance is marking it somehow. And I know my goal for my church this year is we're simply going to have everybody bring in their boxes that their families or their groups did on the final Sunday of National Collection Week, so the day before we end, where we can take them straight from the church to a drop-off location, and just bring them up to the front altar and lay them before the Lord, and have leadership pray over it, and have the people pray over it, that we send these boxes out with prayer and just can see what God has done tangibly, because it will all be in front of us. So that is just a really exciting way to kind of culminate things. And it doesn't have to look like that, but that's just a really simple idea, but can be a very powerful one as well. And then just some tools that I want to let you know about too, that weren't necessarily highlighted hugely on these slides because the print's a little bit small. But couple of things. There's the Follow Your Box on our website. Follow Your Box, it might be on this page here. There it is. You can see it blue. When you're on this particular page, there's a hyperlink to that that'll take you right to that page of the website. But Follow Your Box is an awesome tool where you pay your donation for shipping online, and then you enter an email address, and it gives you a specific boy and girl label with a barcode on it that is attached to your email address. That will get scanned on your boxes at the processing center, and then an email will be sent to that address telling you where your boxes are shipping to. One thing you want to encourage people to do who are using this is to check their spam or junk folders, because it's coming from a do not reply at email address. And sometimes some of the servers and email programs are blocking the emails from coming through automatically. And so to check the spam or junk folder. But I can personally attest to the fact that this works, because years ago, before I worked here, I got excited about this, and I did it one year with my own boxes. And I got 2 emails telling me 2 different countries my boxes went to, and I actually heard from children in both of those countries that year. So that was proof positive to me that it really does work. And it's just exciting to see, where did God let you reach this year? And then right underneath that bullet point there's the fundraising webpage hyperlink. And this is an awesome tool, especially for packing parties, that you can have a page set up to raise the shipping cost for your shoeboxes. And so some people maybe don't want to shop and donate items, or they can't come the night of the packing party, but they want to participate. This is a great opportunity for people to participate and help get the boxes where they're going. So those are a couple of really cool things. And I'm just going to scroll through these here. You'll see lots of hyperlinks in here where we've linked you from that page on the website to the stories and photos and videos, and trying to give you and equip you with everything that you need to have a successful shoebox packing season. And then on this page here with the collecting and celebrating, there's a link for the drop-off locator, where you can go on, put in your church's or group zip code, and see where the closest location is to you and what their hours are. Because it changes a little bit from year to year. So it's always good to check that out and make sure that where you're used to dropping your boxes off, or where you've heard takes boxes, is still taking boxes and what their hours are for this year. And then you'll see that little box at the bottom there with the bonus idea about becoming a year-round volunteer. And that says logistics volunteer, but I'm going to broaden this to any type of year-round volunteer with us. I know I was a project leader before I became a church relations team member, and I loved what I was doing so much with project leading and with this ministry. I just wanted to get more involved and do something more. And I have a burden for seeing churches grasp the vision of what this ministry is doing and get on board with it. And so that was a natural outflowing for me to want to become a church relations team member. But there is a page on our website with year-round volunteer opportunities. And we know that project leaders are already bought into this ministry. God's moved in your heart to let you see more about this ministry for you to be doing what you're doing. And you have leadership skills because you're leading your group or your church in your local area. And so this is not a pressure thing. It's a prayer thing, really, to just pray and see if the Lord might be calling you, because we wholly believe that God calls volunteers to this ministry. There's lots of different ways to be involved, and some people he's called to pack, some people he's called to be project leaders, some people he's called to serve year-round with us as a year-round volunteer. And so to just seek him for how he's working in your life, and check out that information on that page, and just learn more about the opportunities. We have them in church relations, community relations, media relations, prayer mobilization, and our logistics network. So there's lots of ways that people can get involved with different giftings. And our area teams more and more are starting to use admin support team members to just be in that supportive role. If you've got administrative skills, that is a beautiful thing to be involved with the area team. So to check that out, And I just want to close with encouraging you to get on our social media, check out the things on Facebook and Pinterest and Twitter and Instagram, all these different ways that you can utilize to help get the word out to your groups. We've got a couple pictures here of some of the sites. And then to just leave you today with Isaiah 52:7. How beautiful on the mountains are the feet of those who bring good news, who proclaim peace, who bring good tidings, who proclaim salvation, who say to Zion, your God reigns. You are the hands and feet that are equipping the gospel to go to the uttermost ends of the earth by what you're doing in your local communities. And we as a ministry are so grateful for you. We couldn't do what we do without you. And just want to say that may the Lord bless you each in your respective communities where God has placed you to do great and mighty things for him and for his kingdom, and that many, many children and their families and their communities would come to know the Lord Jesus Christ because of your investment in his kingdom work.